Anisa Jomha is the ultimate internet paradox. A woman who has spent over a decade chasing fame and money only to destroy every single opportunity that came her way. She's tried every career that the internet has to offer, desperately trying to find something that would stick. She's been a Twitch streamer, a podcast host, a charity event organizer, and an OF model. And yet, after all this frantic chasing, she has nothing to show for it. Behind every desperate hustle of hers, there's a trail of absolute failure and financial wreckage.
No.
Oh boy.
We have not earned money for the past 2 years, which makes taxes very easy.
That's good.
Nice.
Because beneath all of those failed projects was something much worse than bad business instincts. It was the same pattern showing up again and again. A pattern of being a terrible friend. A wife who constantly humiliated the person standing beside her.
No.
Because since I've known you, you've always had like IBS. You've always been shitting yourself.
Yeah, well.
And a genuinely horrible human being.
I need to be on a leash, a tight leash, to be honest, because I am unhinged.
Her story is a decade-long self-sabotaging pattern of lies, cheating, broken friendships, and opportunities she destroyed the moment they were handed to her. And it started in 2015 on live streaming platform Twitch. By her own admission, Anisa started it because she was struggling to make ends meet, until a friend told her about Caseytron making money by streaming on Twitch. At the time, Caseytron was Twitch's most notorious booby streamer, which, as the name suggests, is a creator who earned money by exposing her cleavage during her Twitch streams. So in 2015, Anisa joined the platform with the same content strategy. She would stream herself playing League of Legends, and although she wasn't exactly good at the game, she still managed to draw a massive audience for obvious reasons. Anisa, however, denied the allegations of being a booby streamer, arguing that just because she was naturally bigger didn't mean she always had to cover up. If I've ever said, yeah, I'm a titty streamer, or I'm doing this for attention in the past 2 years or so, it's been sarcastic or a joke because that's how I handle rude people. Am I aware that I am a bit bustier? Yes. Should that force me to always cover up my body? No, I don't think it should. This isn't the Middle East. This statement was her attempt to reframe her strategy as a body positivity issue, and it would foreshadow her habit of twisting the truth for her benefit throughout the rest of her career, as well as her personal life. And her very first real victim was Acadian. In 2016, Anisa started dating an established pro player of League of Legends, named Matt, aka Acadian, but their relationship ended up being a total disaster. In late September of 2016, Anisa traveled to San Diego to attend TwitchCon with Acadian, which is a semi-annual convention for Twitch streamers. Once the event wrapped up, Acadian headed home, under the impression that he was still in a committed relationship with Anisa. Anisa, however, stayed behind an extra day and used that time to secretly meet up with Ian, one of the most popular at the time, known online as iDubbbz.
So TwitchCon was over, everybody was gone, and I was stuck in the hotel alone with nothing to do. So we ended up messaging each other, and he was like, oh.
Anisa actually admitted in an interview later that after iDubbbz dropped her back off at her hotel, they stayed up chatting the entire night, and according to her words, they were completely inseparable from that moment on.
Talking, that whole night we talked until we fell asleep, and then ever since then we've just been pretty much inseparable.
This was the official starting point of iDubbbz and Anisa's relationship. Looking back now, Anisa's obsession with iDubbbz after a single meeting, all while being in a relationship with Acadian, was one of the least unhinged things she would do over the years. This timing didn't last long as predicted. Just about a couple weeks later, Acadian tweeted this, "Rofel, what the f***? I actually hate girls." That same day, Acadian announced he was taking a total break from the internet as he was not in a good place mentally and the whole thing had affected him quite deeply. But for Anisa, this was only the beginning of a long list of people she'd left and right for purely selfish reasons. When got called out for cheating, Anisa conveniently added new details in her story. She started claiming that her relationship with Acadian was already doing poorly and that he was totally fine with her meeting up with iDubbbz.
And when we were at TwitchCon, I accidentally booked an extra flight and an extra talking to Ian, and Matt knew that I was talking to Ian, and I said to him, I said, do you mind if I go hang out with Ian, or iDubbbz or whatever, because...
She had never mentioned any of this in her original story, and to be completely honest, it makes zero sense because if things were really that bad, why travel all the way from Canada to attend TwitchCon with Acadian in the first place? Unsurprisingly, the viewers didn't buy Anisa's story for a second, and right around that time she started noticing a drop in her streaming views. To hedge her bets, she started uploading on YouTube on the side, trying to keep her career afloat. It was during this YouTube era when she decided to take a trip to New York, and it was was that same trip that would make iDubbbz a total public joke. On June 14th, 2017, Anisa posted a vlog on her YouTube channel entitled I Went to New York featuring Chris Ray Gunn. And just like the title of the video suggests, she spent the entire trip hanging out with Chris. Now this might not have been a big deal on its own, if it weren't for the fact that Anisa was head over heels for him. And the audience knew it too, because she wasn't exactly trying to hide it. Chris would make occasional appearances on her streams as well, where she would openly ask him questions about his sex life.
Have you had sex in an elevator before?
Not in an elevator. I don't know if I could really...
Do you not have anything?
At that time, Chris was dating a girl named Lacey Green. Anisa was aware of the fact, and made it disgustingly obvious that she didn't like Lacey. She would pass on demeaning compliments towards Lucy to show her hatred.
She would make a good star. Lacey would make a good star.
Even during the actual New York trip, she kept making things weird. At one point, she made Chris visibly uncomfortable by telling the camera, "He made me touch it," referring to a spinner toy he brought with him.
Would ever be fun. Oh, Tristan, I'm so sad right now. He made me touch it.
Don't say that.
The comment section immediately caught on to the weird vibes. While some pointed out how completely miserable and uncomfortable Chris looked the entire time, others turned iDubbbz into a punchline and laughed at his expense. If you cheated on Ian with Chris, would it really be cheating since they are the same person? Look guys, it's Anisa, and iDubbbz at TV too. Getting smashed by that ray gun on the side. Is iDubbbz okay with this? Having a crush on other men while being in a relationship was basically Anisa's favorite hobby, and Chris wasn't her only target. Long before the New York trip, another creator on her radar was Leafy is here. During her first few months of relationship with iDubbbz, she was constantly tweeting about Leafy, making her crush obvious to anyone paying attention. Real question, who wants to f*** Leafles here tonight? Nashville, genuine, no offer. I thought you would never ask. Why am I never in your videos? Do I need to lower the cost of money to get me to bend over? I will shield you from the storm with my son. But publicly drooling over other guys wasn't the only time Anisa completely lacked a filter. She would casually drop some of the most unhinged takes the internet had ever seen. In one of her streams, Anisa argued that the horrific events of Holocaust resulted in groundbreaking scientific discoveries.
You're expecting. As terrible as the Holocaust was, people, they found a couple of really groundbreaking discoveries through that experimentation.
Now obviously it was a complete and utter lie, spreading historical misinformation that a simple Google search could have debunked. And it wasn't an isolated incident either. Anisa's habit of running her mouth on sensitive topics she knew absolutely nothing about. In one of her streams, Anisa tried to defend Marcus Wilton, known online as Lionmaker. For those who don't remember, Lionmaker was a Minecraft YouTuber who was thoroughly exposed for his predatory behavior. He had multiple victims who eventually came forward, and he had been legally convicted for his actions. He did jail time and spent several months in psychiatric care. But somehow Anisa was unaware of all this drama, and while the rest of the world looked at Lionmaker with absolute disgust, Anisa decided to play devil's advocate. She publicly stuck her neck out to defend a convicted predator, completely blind to how bad it made her look to the entire community.
No matter like how serious it is, right? Like even when Lionmaker, whatever his name was accused of pedophilia, like it gave me a lot of anxiety because I feel like a lot of it is based on a lot of fiction and not a lot of fact.
Well, Lionmaker went to jail for pedophilia. It's a real.
Yeah, I mean, and he went to jail, and he deserved to go to jail. Like,
it didn't go unnoticed. Anisa was permanently stamped as a person who defended a predator, invalidating all her future takes. When Anisa wasn't making a fool of herself online with her ridiculous takes, she was busy humiliating her boyfriend right in front of the entire internet. During one of her streams, Anisa revealed that Ian had IBS, and he had been shitting himself ever since she met him.
I just want to ask you if you've always been shitting your pants.
No.
Because since I've known you, you've always had like IBS. You've always been shitting yourself.
Yeah.
In another of her streams, Anisa told Chris Ray Gunn that Ian reminded her of a street monkey.
You know those like...
I'm curious to know.
You know, like in Aladdin, you know, a poo.
And if you think that's an insane thing to say about the man you claim to love, wait until you hear what she said on an appearance on the H3 podcast. Anisa went out of her way to describe Ian's entire aesthetic as trashy, untucked, trailer park, and simple.
so for Ian, for example, like I would say trashy or trailer park would be one. Like untucked or like a bit unorganized and simple.
The internet wasn't laughing at the insults, though. Instead, her constant disrespect toward Ian ignited a massive wave of hatred against herself. This is what a looks like. With a wife like Anisa, you don't really need enemies. Anyone else notice how Anisa always has to embarrass Ian publicly, but Ian would never do the same. As Anisa became more unhinged and outright ignorant and disrespectful towards Ian, her numbers paid the price. Her views started sinking lower and lower. Within a couple of years, it got so bad that she actually started crying on stream, complaining to her audience about her tanking numbers. It was the ultimate form of digital begging. To make matters worse, her YouTube subscriber count was also actively shrinking over time instead of growing. The more I upload, the more subs I lose. At one point, things became so bad that she actually started thinking about going back to school to finish her degree. I'm not growing, it's the opposite after a month of consistent uploads. That's a clear sign I need to go back to school or get a job. And in all honesty, if she had taken her own advice at the time, the internet would have way less to talk about today. But she didn't, so here we are. While her view count was going down, so was apparently her love life. In her private Discord server, Anisa was talking about ending things with iDubbbz altogether. In a series of leaked messages, she complained that Ian would never defend her, but that Chris Ray Gun actually might. Even though Ian would never publicly defend me even if you threw acid on his skinned-alive body. Maybe, but he's probably too pussy. And Chris would stick up for me, sure, but instead of keeping her grounded, her fans at the time were doing the exact opposite. They were actively egging her on, encouraging her not to wait around for Ian, and to just jump the ship. He can't have you waiting around the corner. I had hoped you wouldn't get back together last time, just saying. For Anisa, who was watching her career sinking in real time, this echo chamber was exactly the kind of validation and attention she desperately needed. But validation doesn't pay the bills. And as her views continued to flatline, Anisa realized she was officially running out of options. So, as a final desperate attempt to save her dying internet career, Anisa made an announcement on her Twitter about joining OF in March 2020. Just a few months before the announcement, Anisa had gotten a boob job that Ian had allegedly paid for. Unsurprisingly, the internet absolutely lost its mind. Up until this point, her crushes on other men while being in a relationship with Ian were treated like a messy joke by his viewers. They ridiculed him, laughed at the awkward clips, and threw a sarcastic comment at Anisa here and there. It's fair to say that she wasn't well liked by Ian's fans, but she wasn't wholeheartedly hated yet either. However, Anisa was seemingly determined to change that, because the excuse she came up with to justify the move was hilariously bizarre. She put out a statement saying, "I am not engaged, my dad needs to be home for $3,000 a month, and my boyfriend's money is not mine to spend." She might have thought she could victimize herself by this statement somehow, but the internet saw right through her story. Homed, talking about dad like she's posting a pet adoption for a rescue. Seriously, it's so dehumanizing. A simple "I need more cash for family expenses," or "I need money for my dad's medical needs." Dehumanizing her own father in a post meant to prove she was sacrificing everything to help him was ironic, but not the only point of criticism. Viewers found out that Anisa's mother, Maureen, was already asking for donations on Twitter for her husband's healthcare. Some viewers also pointed out the blatant hypocrisy of Anisa and how she didn't hesitate before taking Ian's money for her boob job. Yet when it came to her own father's healthcare, she suddenly wanted to have financial independence. And as bad as Anisa looked after her illogical reasoning, it was Ian who ended up taking the heaviest beating online. For years, iDubbbz had been the undisputed king of edgy and offensive internet commentary. He went straight from the internet's favorite critic to its ultimate laughingstock. The community ruthlessly labeled him a simp and a cuck. At first, Ian tried to brush the whole thing off, attempting to roll with the punches and laugh along with the memes. "I'm done. I'm done. No more Mr. Nice Simp." But as the mockery refused to die down, he realized he needed to address it head-on, releasing a now infamous video titled Workers. In the video, Ian attempted to rationalize the entire situation, explaining to his audience exactly why Anisa's new venture didn't bother him, but he did so by attacking his own fans.
You should break up with her, but I'm cool with it. You do realize there are guys out there in private right now jacking off to your girlfriend, but I guess it's out of sight, out of mind. It's not.
He criticized his own fan base, bluntly reminding them that he wasn't their father or their moral compass. He essentially told his viewers that if they didn't like the person he had become, they needed to find someone else to idealize.
I'm not your fucking dad. Like, if you don't want to look up to me anymore, that's fine. I don't want you to look. Then I suggest you go idolize.
However, despite his reasoning, most of his viewers remained unconvinced, as you can see in the comment box of this video. This is really weird ad for your girlfriend's OnlyFans. And at this point in history, the fan base divided. And that was in fact the truth. From that point onward, Ian's fanbase was forever divided, and with each passing day, the number of viewers still willing to defend him grew smaller and smaller. With his community hopelessly split and the support shrinking by the day, Ian and Anisa decided to block out the noise entirely. In June 2021, Anisa announced that they had eloped to get married in Las Vegas. The viewers who had spent these past months mocking their dynamics, they didn't see this quick wedding as a romantic milestone. For them, it was a confirmation that the old iDubbbz was truly gone. Soon a new detail about their marriage surfaced on the the internet that sent the viewers into another tailspin. A couple of days after the marriage announcement, the internet found out that Ian had legally taken Anisa's last name. Now, objectively speaking, there is absolutely nothing wrong with a man taking his wife's last name. In a vacuum, challenging traditional marital roles can be a perfectly valid modern choice rooted in mutual respect. But when it came to Ian and Anisa, the internet wasn't looking at this in a vacuum. Upon asking about the decision, Anisa simply said that she didn't like Ian's last name.
His last name is because his last name is like just objectively ugly. It's just like an ugly last name. It's like, to me, Anisa Washburn sounds bad.
Given their other relationship dynamics, it felt like yet another example of Anisa asserting complete dominance, forcing Ian to erase his own identity to appease her. But while the internet was busy laughing at Ian's miserable life, he was quietly working on a massive career pivot. In the year 2022, Ian decided to host a boxing event for influencers in partnership with the event management company Real Good Touring. And to nobody's surprise, Anisa was right there with him, co-hosting the event. At this point in internet culture, influencer boxing had been in trend, but Jomha wanted to do things differently, so they declared Creator Clash to be a charity event. The event was officially announced on March 25th, 2022, and it was going to be held later in May. This was also the first boxing event that featured female boxers, such as Justa Minx and Yodeling Haley. Initially, Anisa was meant to be fighting against Justa Minx, but she later had a concussion during one of the training sessions, and was allegedly told by the doctors not to participate in the fight. But even with her out, the card was packed with notable internet personalities, including Dr. Mike, who was lined up as an opponent for Ian. Ethan and Hila of H3 podcast, and Anisa and Ian's long-term friends were their biggest supporters throughout this whole event. Their crew member A.B. Ayad was fighting on the main card, and their team member Lena was also involved in the event organization. The event ended up being successful in raising $1.3 million for charity, and the money was donated to 3 different charities, namely the American Heart Association, the Alzheimer's Association, and the Healing Horse Therapy Center. In the wake of the event, Anisa went on a massive victory lap. She hopped on podcasts along with Ian to milk the event for all the clout it was worth, which was pretty ironic considering her contribution to the actual project was virtually non-existent. She essentially tried to pitch herself as an anti-capitalist hero, explicitly stating that she hated traditional boxing events because they were nothing more than a cash grab for wealthy YouTubers looking to exploit smaller creators.
Than Ian, where I'm like pretty anti-capitalist. I hate landlords. I think what really made me mad about boxing events in the past is that it's rich assholes betting their money to like have people that are struggling to like make ends meet and pay rent watch them do it, and then they'll go home and like have a lot of money.
Riding the high of their first major success, Ian didn't waste any time. He immediately threw himself into planning Creator Clash 2. At this point, the tournament felt like Jomha's absolute last resort for online relevancy. During one of Ethan's podcasts, Ian pitched his vision on a massive scale, boldly claiming that he wanted Creator Clash to become the Super Bowl of the internet, an annual must-watch sports event that the entire digital world would look forward to every single year.
I think we always want to have, if we keep doing this type of event, and we kind of want it to be like a Super Bowl, like every year.
But you want to do it again?
Yeah.
Anisa went on to add that she wanted Creator Clash to be like VidCon, where influencers could come together to party and spend quality time with each other.
Way more exciting VidCon. Or like I want it to be like influencers can like care about this and fans can care about this and like you can go watch it and have like a build up, like maybe part.
This new shift in focus and management, among other things, is exactly what eventually turned Creator Clash 2 into a public failure. Creator Clash 2 took place on April 15th, 2023, and it was the ultimate example of the Jomhas getting completely ahead of themselves. In their desire to create something big, they had scaled up the event to an absurd degree. They booked the Amalie Arena in Tampa, Florida, which is a massive venue, double the size of the previous year's stadium. To fill the space, they expanded the card to include even more fighters, which naturally increased the cost for training. To turn the event into a premium networking hub like VidCon, they flew out other influencers like Amaranth, Abelina Sabrina, and many more just to roam around and promote the brand, without any consideration for the expenses. They rented out an entire hotel, funded multiple massive parties before and after the fights, and Anisa hosted a post-event red carpet gala. Rather than it just being a standard boxing event, Jomha turned it into a pseudo-VidCon like Anisa had wanted. And just when Jomha thought everything was going to be picture perfect, things went south. One of the main fighters on the card was Froggy Fresh, who had over 860,000 subscribers on YouTube and was doing a ton of promotion for the event on different podcasts. But during one of his promotion videos, Froggy made a single offhand joke about Anisa's OF.
If I don't hurt you beyond what anybody could have imagined, I will be so disappointed in myself that I will...
Hesitation?
This cost him his spot on the card. Shortly after, the Creator Clash account on Twitter posted that Froggy was no longer a part of the event. This sparked a massive controversy online. Fans were collectively losing their minds, aggressively demanding that management reverse the decision and let Froggy fight. I was super stoked to see him. Did they really toss him because he made a simple joke? This is so disappointing. He was the main fighter I was looking forward to. But the Jomhas had completely made up their minds, leaving the audience furious at a brutal, unexplained removal. Between the Froggy Fresh controversy and the absolute mismanagement of the budget, Creator Clash 2 was completely doomed. Not only did the event not raise a single cent for the charities, but it also ended up losing $250,000 that the Jomhas had to pay from their pocket. When it was time to address the financial wreckage, Ian mainly blamed the failure on poor piracy prevention.
We didn't have any anti-piracy measures. We weren't prepared to deal with
He further explained that they only had 50,000 pay-per-view, but around 3 million people watched the full broadcast with the help of almost 800 pirated sites.
Amongst the 800 pirated streaming sites, there were between 1.3 and 3 million viewers. So even though there were around 50,000 pay-per-view buys, there were around 1.3 to 3 million.
After shortly addressing the actual issues like overspending and mismanagement, Ian announced his plan to upload the entire broadcast to YouTube for free, pairing it with a fundraiser for any viewers willing to donate.
I want to post the full broadcast on YouTube, and I want to have like a fundraising goal. I know YouTube has like a fundraising thing.
He explained that while he was completely fine with personal financial loss, he simply couldn't accept the fact that the charities were the ones left empty-handed.
With us up and taking a $250,000 loss, I'm not okay with charities not getting any money.
The comment section under the video was filled with people saying they didn't even know Creator Clash 2 was happening. With $250,000 in the red, Jomhas desperately needed money. So in 2024, Anisa decided to give streaming another shot, but the internet wasn't done talking about the past yet. She didn't go live to talk about the drama, she just wanted a normal stream. But rumors that the Jomhas had pocketed the charity money were everywhere, and tons of commentary channels were already making videos on it, sharing their opinions. Inevitably, the topic got brought up in her chat, and Anisa completely lost it.
Was because commentary YouTubers have no idea what it is to work a normal job, let alone put on a whole event, okay?
She claimed that $100,000 wouldn't even cover a quarter of a broadcast's costs, and insisted that if any of these creators ever tried a real job, they'd quit in a week.
$100,000 does not even cost 1/4 of the broadcasting fees. No. I know a lot of them have never worked a real job. I know that for a fact. And if you have, you worked there for a week and you cried and you quit.
The irony here is crazy, considering Anisa had never held a traditional job herself, made her money as an OnlyFans model and a booby streamer, and had just ruined a massive charity event. Following the massive meltdown, Anisa temporarily vanished from Twitch once again. Anisa would later try to paint her public breakdown as a strategic plan to get views, saying that she predicted the clip would go viral, and it did.
It's interesting because when I did the rant that like got clipped and shared by like a bunch of people, I did that intentionally to be like ranty and interesting and eye-catching, and like I did it with the intention of like getting...
It's safe to say nobody actually believed Anisa was some kind of mastermind. The breakdown was most likely the result of her well-known impulsiveness and complete inability to handle criticism. For the rest of 2024, Anisa would keep showing up on Twitch every now and then, but couldn't grab the attention of viewers. Just when everyone thought Anisa's internet era was officially dead, she resurfaced with a shocking announcement. In early 2025, Anisa started talking about the occurrence of Creator Clash 3 on her Instagram stories. You would think they might have learned something from their mistakes, but they didn't. After failing a $1 million charity event, they decided to do it all over again. Since the second event failed to raise a single cent for charity, the Jomhas figured the smart move was to drop the charity aspect completely and turn Creator Clash 3 into a purely for-profit event. And remember, why Anisa hated boxing events in the past.
Stream than Ian, where I'm like pretty anti-capitalist. I hate landlords. I hate the system that we're in. Like, I think the reason why I really like the charity boxing event is because at least we can like find ways to give money to people who actually need it rather than like just being... I think what really made me mad about boxing events in the past is that it's rich assholes betting their money to make money to like have people that are struggling to like make ends meet and pay rent watch them do it, and then they'll go home and like have a lot of money and like...
Yeah, she became the same person she had claimed to despise. But I guess it's alright to make money from boxing events as long as you still put charity in the title, because that's exactly what Jomha did. With the first two events, the setup was simple. All the money from pay-per-view sales and tickets went straight to charity. But for Creator Clash 3, the money earned from pay-per-view and ticket sales was not guaranteed to go to the charity. The only charity aspect of the event was this external donation link they had put on their website, and the worst part is, they kept completely quiet about it while promoting the show. The only way to find out about this new detail was to dig through their website. Fans were understandably upset, and some went as far as labeling the entire event a fraud, but losing the public's trust was just the beginning of their downfall. What they did with their friends was so much worse. For an entire decade, the Jomhas had been close friends with Ethan and Hila from the H3 podcast. They'd appeared on their podcast numerous times, and the H3 couple had supported them through thick and thin. But when it was time to return the loyalty, the Jomhas did the exact opposite. The initial fallout began when Anisa became close friends with a former H3 editor named Froggy Tonic. He had been actively spreading hate against Hila online, even going so far as to call her a cunt on X. There were also some other allegations circulating online, like the couple not treating their kids right and abusing their dog. Unsurprisingly, Anisa's closeness with someone who was publicly attacking them deeply upset the H3 couple. They asked the Jomhas to publicly defend them, but Ian and Anisa flat out refused.
Ethan's upset with, I think, some of our connections. We want to stay out of the drama as much as possible. We don't want to...
This marked the end of their friendship with Ethan and Hila, as Ethan would publicly say that he stood by these people all these years, but they are not his friends anymore.
I probably done and stood by iDubbbz and Anisa more than anybody. I've stood by them when all the internet hated them, because I love those guys. I vouched for their character, and I stood by them 100%. And listen, I'm not saying that they're not the good, nice, fine people that I thought they were, but I'll say this, I don't think they're any friends of mine.
A few days later, Hila also addressed the issue on the podcast, clarifying that she didn't need Anisa to completely take over the fight. She just felt that, as a longtime friend, Anisa could have at least done the bare minimum to support them, like confirming they are good parents with a clean home. It really wouldn't have been that hard to do.
I've been to their house. Their house is clean. They treat their kids nice. I've seen them with their kids. She could say so.
To defend Anisa, Ian stepped in with a massive justification. He claimed the real reason she couldn't defend them was because Ethan and Hila were Jewish, while Anisa was half Irish and half Lebanese. He argued that because her people had been on the receiving end of oppression from Israel for so long, standing up for Hila at this specific point in time would look terrible for her.
Anisa is half Lebanese and genocide. On the part of the Lebanese, they've received a lot of oppression and attacks from the IDF. So Anisa is very well familiar with the propaganda and the shit coming out of Israel. Choosing now, out of all the times, to be like, please defend me. No, we're not gonna defend.
This was easily the most pathetic excuse Ian could have possibly come up with, especially since Anisa had literally stated in the past that she was 50% Irish, 25% Italian, and only 8% Arab, which is far from half. From this point onwards, Anisa would suddenly start to embrace her long left Islamic identity, despite having publicly admitted in the past that she had renounced Islam when she was 16 years old. This blatant hypocrisy didn't sit right with Ethan and Hila, and the viewers weren't buying it either. This whole controversy deeply affected the progress of Creator Clash 3, and fighters immediately started pulling their names out from the card. The first one to drop out was Harley Morenstein, followed quickly by Lena. Given that both Lena and AB actually worked for Ethan, their departure came as absolutely no surprise.
It is with great regret that we announced that Lena will not be participating in Creator Clash either.
At first, the Jomhas tried to act completely unbothered. Anisa posted on Twitter that they were just heading out on a vacation, promising she'd be back to streaming once they returned. It was as if they believed that if they pretended nothing was wrong, the audience would blindly look the other way, but it backfired completely. Instead of moving on, viewers quickly realized that the sudden silence pointed to something much worse. Harley dropped out 48 plus hours ago. Lena dropped out 24 plus hours ago. Website is unchanged, no announcement on socials, and Anisa is active on socials talking about going on vacation. Ticket sales are still open with no announcement. Is Creator Clash just Ian and Anisa's version of a crypto rug pull? It felt like the more they tried to make things right, the worse they became. With the event completely spinning out of control, Ian and Anisa had to make a decision that changed the fate of Creator Clash forever. In a last-ditch effort to save their project from completely burning down, the Jomhas decided to step back. In May 2025, Ian announced that they were officially stepping down from Creator Clash, leaving the event entirely in the hands of their partner management company. He explained that the original goal, which was bringing creators together and raising money for charity, was too important to be abandoned just because of the chaos surrounding them. Ian made it a point to clarify that they were no longer tied to the event financially or in any other way, though they still genuinely wanted to see it happen.
The event is still happening. Anisa and I just don't have any financial ties. We don't have any ownership. We are, I think just going to be known as the founders of the event.
But things just continued to go downhill. Days later, Freddie Wong, another creator, stepped down from fighting in the event. After months of relentless controversy and downward spiral that Jomha just couldn't fix, on July 7, 2025, the management company officially announced the cancellation of Creator Clash 3. In an attempt to completely wash her hands of the disaster, Anisa told her Discord community that she and Ian had zero control over the event's downfall after their exit. She assured fans that the most important thing to her was making sure the charities and fighters were paid, and insisted both of these things had been fully taken care of. But that wasn't exactly true. Lena, the H3 employee who had pulled out of the fight, was left completely empty-handed for months. It actually took immense pressure from the audience, intense hands-on negotiations from Ethan himself to finally get Lena her reimbursement. By that point, the internet saw Creator Clash as nothing more than a public disaster that had burned friendships, damaged reputations, and left people questioning where the money had gone. She abandoned the wreckage and looked for a new lane. Unfortunately for her, that next lane only added another failure to the list. In July 2025, Anisa took a break from her OF modeling and tried to reinvent herself as a food influencer. She began tweeting photos of honestly unappetizing food she claimed to have made, accompanied by heartfelt captions to try and keep her engagement alive. Sometimes I like to just make a big bowl of Mediterranean bean salad. It's tasty, healthy, and gets better overnight, so it makes an amazing easy lunch for the week. But instead of a wholesome new fan base, she got humbled. Her comment sections became a battleground of people trashing her culinary skills, dragging Ian into the mix, and refusing to let her forget her past mistakes. Remember when you thought you could sell your naked body for money? The world is laughing at you, Anisa, you miserable excuse for a human. From up a charity event to being a surface-level food blogger? What a comeback. With absolutely nothing working out and their reputation completely ruined, the Jomhas were finally forced to face reality. They ultimately had to sell their house in the US and move all the way back to Canada, living out of Anisa's mother's basement. From that point on, Ethan made it a point to never let them live it down. He promised that even with Anisa hitting rock bottom, he would continue to relentlessly mock her, making it crystal clear that he would never forgive or forget what Ian and Anisa had done.
Paying attention, I will be there. I will be there to make fun of you, to shit on you, to ground you deeper into the ground. I will never forgive you. I will never forget, and I am going to be vindictive about you both forever.
And he ended up doing just that. For months, Ethan kept the pressure on, relentlessly criticizing Ian and Anisa for every single piece of content they put out. By August 2025, Anisa finally ran out of options. With her reputation ruined and the money drying up, she went back to OnlyFans. It was the ultimate admission that her mainstream career was completely over. To no one's surprise, the comment sections were immediately flooded with people mocking her return, taking brutal jabs at Ian's expense. Does your cuck husband get a 34% cut? And reminding her of her Muslim identity. WTF happened to being a Muslim? Old fans. Doesn't earn money anymore, only 8% Muslim, so it's okay. When you step back and look at it, the whole situation is just a prolonged story of Anisa's toxicity. She spent years trying to build a massive online brand, but instead of actually making it to the top, she ended up completely wrecking the genuine success her husband had spent years building up for himself. To this date, her OF return post is still pinned on her Twitter account, but it seems like nobody except a handful of people are paying attention. And maybe that is the most fitting ending possible to her career. Her rise was never built on anything stable enough to survive scrutiny, and her fall was not dramatic enough for people to keep caring. It was just a slow, ugly collapse into the same attention-chasing cycle she had been trapped in from the beginning.